Hi there, my name is Eve Hanlon. I'm a landscape designer, and today we're going on a walk to learn about lawn-free front yard landscaping. And walks are one of the best ways to collect landscape design inspiration, honestly, because you get to see reality. You get to see what reality looks like in your microclimate in your neighborhood. When you collect landscape design inspiration from, maybe a gardening magazine, a gardening book, as awesome as these sources are for inspiration, sometimes they don't show pictures of gardens that are realistic, or maybe you don't know what is realistic for you. But when you walk in your neighborhood, you can see what reality looks like for a bunch of different people with different budgets and styles and amounts of time that they can spend working in their yards. So I like to visit different neighborhoods and see different yards and learn from other people's landscaping. So come along, I'm going to find some lawn-free front yard inspiration, and I will break it down so that you can learn about lawn-free front yard landscape design from these examples. This lawn-free, colorful front yard really stood out, and what I love about this design in particular is that they focused on a lot of shrubs, which decreases the maintenance, yet it still looks so colorful. It looks like they started with a repeating pattern, but they ended up losing a couple of phlox plants, and it absolutely does not matter. Repeat patterns are always a little risky in landscape design because sometimes things will just die. There's a nice mix of evergreen and deciduous plants here, and they're all pretty low maintenance plants. The phlox needs trimmed back once a year if you choose to do so. Oftentimes, when folks want a really colorful front yard in full sun, they tend to lean on herbaceous perennial plants that have big showy blooms, but typically it's actually lower maintenance to have a mix of shrubs and herbaceous perennial plants. This is a generalization, of course, but if you focus on all herbaceous perennials in your front yard, you're going to have a lot more work to do. And I think this landscape demonstrates that you don't necessarily need to include a ton of herbaceous perennial plants to still have a super colorful looking landscape. Now another yard with a different style. I saw this dahlia peeking over the fence. I got excited. Then I saw more dahlias. I got even more excited. The colors in this yard are absolutely stunning. You see the red railing, then we have the reds and the oranges and the purples. All of these colors complement the house so well, with the fountain acting as a focal point. This yard has more herbaceous perennials in it than the last example, which means it's going to be slightly more maintenance, but the trade-off is you get dahlias. You'll notice there is no exposed soil. The soil is completely covered by either stone, flagstone plants, sidewalk, or it is properly mulched. This is great because in general, exposed soil will increase the maintenance of your landscape. The side yard is almost entirely evergreen. We have some phormium and evergreen ground covers like hens and chicks and creeping thyme. There are some dahlias mixed in as well, and they are the only thing in the side yard that will go dormant in the winter. Now this yard is a bit different. We have a lot of green, a lot of space-filling, evergreen, very low-maintenance plants. You have to wait a little bit for these plants to fill in, but once they do, maintaining a landscape like this is very easy. If you mulch properly, then you only need to pull weeds every now and then. The tough ones, there's always a few. Besides that, maintenance of a landscape like this includes periodically top dressing the mulch, maybe once a year or maybe every couple of years. It depends. And any branches that grow out into the sidewalk would need to be pruned, just neatened up, but that's a very pleasant gardening activity. It doesn't take too much time. Almost every plant in this yard is evergreen. Like we have this rosemary, for example, which is also culinary, of course. This ground cover's kinnikinnick, it's called. It's a native Pacific Northwest plant, an evergreen ground cover. We also have Pacific Northwest native Oregon grape. There are 2 cultivars of euonymus in this yard, and I love euonymus. Some people don't like it because it's a really common shrub in landscaping, and it's kind of like if something becomes too common, if it's been around for too long, people turn up their noses, they don't like it as much anymore. And then we have a variegated boxleaf euonymus, which has smaller leaves, and this pattern to it that almost hurts your eyes. It repeats so much. I love it. We also have David's Viburnum, and this is another one that's tough as anything. It'll survive in dry soil and clay soil, and it's very commonly used in commercial landscaping, so some people don't love it as much, and I don't think it deserves that. It's beautiful, it flowers, and it requires almost no maintenance. I also noticed that this house is working on becoming backyard habitat certified through the local Audubon Society and partner programs, which is a really cool thing to do. You get a really cool sign when you become wildlife habitat certified. You may want to consider it for your yard. Now here's a sometimes controversial opinion of mine. Within reason, I think the world would be a much better place if we had more messy fruit trees dropping fruit all over the sidewalks. I mean, look at this abundance. What a great use of this space between a sidewalk and a street. Similarly, we have this patch of lavender and oregano that completely fills this area between the sidewalk and the street. It's absolutely alive with pollinators, native pollinators, little flies, wasps. This is probably less maintenance than having grass here because you don't have to go out and mow the grass periodically, but at the same time, it's possible for weeds to pop up in between these plants if you're not mulching it carefully. Also, these things will need to be trimmed once a year. It's usually better to leave plants standing all winter for wildlife, so maybe in the spring after it warms up quite a bit and when the plant starts regrowing from the base. It definitely has a messier look, and some people may not like that. But if you think about the trade-off, you could have a lawn here that's doing almost nothing, or you could have this patch of lavender and oregano that's literally buzzing with life. All of these little creatures that are benefiting from this space. As long as you don't get fined by your neighborhood association or something like that, please don't get into any trouble because of my recommendations. In general, it's always up to you to decide what's best for you and your landscape, but I do like to point out, as you're considering inspiration for your front yard, lawn-free front yard, that a little bit of mess is absolutely worth embracing in most cases. Usually, we're all better off because of it. For our next lawn-free front yard example, we have this delightful little bungalow, and I snapped just a few pictures of this. There are a lot of interesting things that we can learn about lawn-free landscape design from this example yard. First, it looks like they are going for a bit of a meadow effect on this front slope for some erosion control. I love that they have a row of lavender at the front. Having a solid row of something evergreen like this can kind of catch any mulch or any debris that may slide down the hill a little bit in the event of an extreme rainstorm or something like that. All of these yellow coreopsis will pretty much go dormant in the winter in this climate, so it may be a good idea, if you're doing something for erosion control like this, to have something with a little bit more winter structure mixed in, something evergreen. I'm a huge fan of landscaping with trees. Having trees in the front yard on the south face of your house, especially because of the heating and cooling benefits in this part of the world. So that means that if you have a deciduous tree in your front yard, then in the summer, you have the shade of the leaves that helps you keep your house cool. And then in the winter, those leaves fall off. You get the sun on your house. That helps you when you're trying to heat your house, right? And these are some really beautiful trees you might notice too. They're pretty young, so they're going to continue to fill in. There is something really special about these trees that I bet that you are not noticing right now. But if you zoom in a little bit, the one on the left is a fig tree. Look at the fruit coming in there. And next to it, we have a cherry tree. Below the fig, we have a currant bush. Look at that. It's absolutely loaded with red currants. So beautiful. Here we have a baby blueberry bush, again, covered in berries. There are layers of herbs growing in the front yard. Besides that, we have a mulch pathway with some stepping stones and just layers of herbs and various perennial plants. You probably wouldn't have guessed, staring at this yard from the street, that this is something that produces food. You may live in a neighborhood where there are certain rules about what you can or can't have in your front yard, and a pretty common rule I've found many of my design clients to find a little bit frustrating is that you can't have raised beds or grow vegetables in your front yard. A lot of times you can have them in your backyard, but if you have a south-facing front yard, that's pretty disappointing because that's where you're going to get all of the sun for your vegetable plants. But the reality is that there are a lot of plants that can produce fruit or vegetables that can pass as pretty standard landscaping plants. I think the currant bush is a great example of this because these red berries on this currant bush absolutely look like ornamental berries. The possibilities are almost endless. There are so many trees and shrubs and perennials that can produce fruit or vegetables and just other amazing beneficial things that you can neatly tuck into your landscaping without any of the super rule-following neighbors noticing. If you want to learn more about how to choose the right plant for your yard, like how to put the right plant in the right place, I have a free mini course I created called How to Choose the Perfect Plant. It's linked in the description below this video. To sign up, you just need to create a little account, like a username and password, so that you can keep track of your progress as you move through the course. I created it to help people have more landscaping success. I hope you enjoy. It's free, again, about an hour long total, and it's available online at any time. You may also be interested in this other video, which is about landscape design mistakes that lead to more maintenance. I also have a series of videos about mulch, as boring as that sounds. It's one of the most important parts of a low-maintenance landscape, so check out that playlist. I hope you enjoyed this walk with a landscape designer style video. This was my first time doing this. The quality will definitely improve as I get a little bit better using the camera on the go like this. I'm relatively new to this. Please let me know if you have any additional questions about landscape design or things you'd like to see in the future. Thank you so much for watching, and happy gardening.